Today I'm here to talk about creative perfectionism and how it can be so crippling to the point where people who are very talented and know exactly what they're doing never release any art. I want to talk about this really horrible cycle of wanting everything that you release to be the best, most perfect thing on the planet. For me, I've never really had this issue just because I've always expected people to see my art as not the best on the planet, and I've come to terms with that. I've always drawn stuff that was more simplistic. I was drawn into art to a certain extent because I liked the idea of having one stroke showing so much complexity versus a lot of micro strokes to show something that is a lot more rough. I think speed painting is a good example of that. I inherently chose an art style that doesn't have an issue with being very simplistic and very run down, very not complex. So I'm coming from a point of view of somebody who does a little bit more sketchy doodle versus paint brush stroke perfectionism. I kind of just want to talk about the things that help me work through not zooming in to the point where the pixels are so aggressive and why am I trying to change a little dot compared to the larger picture. Let's just talk about some of the things that slow an artist down or halt them completely. Sometimes trying to top load your work or do some pre-planning can actually be a detriment to getting things done. I love a step one. I live in the first thing you're supposed to do and never seeing it to completion. And that addiction, maybe, to always not going to step two is itself a way of over-perfecting the first resolve. I would definitely suggest of having a framework or a template that you fill out and don't go beyond, so you always are going to supply yourself with just what you need and not too much more. Let's get on to step two. Sometimes there is a fear of just making the first mark. I will say I love a sketch layer. I love roughing out a drawing and then going into more detail and going into more detail and going into more detail. I don't need my first rough sketch to look just as crisp as the final product. And if I don't know how an angle of something is working, it is so much easier to just draw it as a blob, get that initial idea going, and then let it bloom into something else. This is something that I've worked on over time, and I didn't do that from step one. And I will say I probably would have grown a lot faster if I embraced the draft sketch a lot faster in my art development than letting it become something that I've done as a seasoned artist. I feel like I am definitely able to look at the sketch, see if that idea works compositionally and kind of the effect that I wanted visually before I overly invest in drawing the rest of the piece or realizing that I could have done something better. So I 100% suggest that if you are having trouble just getting any ink on paper or any medium you choose, just sketch it up. See if you like the two blobs being together in some way. And see if you can have your drawing stretch even further with better composition and better contrast with your sketch. It really does help. I feel like this perfectionism lives in the abandoned art. The things that you started but don't finish. I have my fair share of those. I do like to sketch and then let it be. If I think I found a really good pose for a human or something like that, I'll sketch out that idea and just let it live in my graveyard of sketches. It's not so much that I failed to deliver, it's just the fact that I now have that pose waiting for me if I want to do another drawing and I don't want to think too hard about human anatomy and have that just plopped right into my drawing and I'm allowed to work from there. That's how I work. But that doesn't quite fit what we're talking about here. This is stuff that you started and you don't think you're good enough to finish. And that's hogwash. If you feel like you're not good enough to finish it, then just go ahead and start working on other pieces that are a little bit more in your scope and let that artwork be a ladder rung that you climb up to instead of just thinking that you're not good enough. It is infinitely easier for you to work on something that you're building up to than to just write yourself off as a horrible artist that will never be able to conquer those things. There's a lot of really talented artists who release really cool stuff, who have a lot of demons of past drawings behind them where they think, I wasn't good enough to complete that thing. And they are still working on those demons. So just be a part of the club that is also working on the small details of your art career and let it be a stage and not a barrier for entry. Another huge reason why people just don't see a piece to completion is the hyperfixation on detail and a desire for perfectionism at a level that I must say most people do not pay attention to. I'm really happy that you hold yourself to a high standard, but you are the one holding yourself to that high standard and nobody else. Everybody wants to see you succeed, and if that is through art and a beautiful piece that they see, they will not zoom in on a detail and think that you failed because you didn't work out that detail at the very end of the piece. It is much more valuable for somebody to see what you're working on and understand that you are learning than for you to learn in a vacuum without anybody ever noticing you as an artist. A lot of people grow as they draw. You cannot speedrun art. So therefore, you should release the art even if you think it's not quite right. There is nothing more fun than to see a very talented artist post I drew this 5 years ago, I redrew it now, and this is how much I've grown. So why not give yourself that opportunity to, in 5 years, knock it out of the park? You definitely should allow yourself to grow as you go instead of just popping out of nowhere as an exceptionally talented artist. Believe you me, people would much rather be on the journey with you as you get better than just pull over you as an idol that they need to work towards. Let's work with, not against. Another thing that artists like to do is compare. They see somebody else's work and they say, me wanty, me can't do, never mind, I won't draw anymore. It's a very sad way to live. And I definitely would prefer that people get inspired by seeing other people's work than feel downtrodden and not interested in drawing ever again. You won't get better by not trying to see what made them good. You should see their artwork as an opportunity to grow and a place to learn and a community that you get to interact with far more than a threat to your own abilities and a limitation to who you are as a person. Let's just get this clear. The artist community is an open one, and they want to see you grow. Even that person who drew that thing that you're now judging yourself against is judging themselves, sadly, probably, against another person's artwork. And if you message them or communicated with them in a way that they feel is appropriate, they will probably give you some hints on how to do the exact thing that they did. They want to see you grow too. They want a member on their team. They do not want to go up against you aggressively. So just consider that whenever you are looking at somebody else's piece. This is a team player. This is not an enemy. We all cringe when we look at our past artwork. The things that we've drawn in the past and the things that we thought were so cool, but were definitely missing the mark. It is okay to be bad at a stage of your art career. You gotta start somewhere. And I almost say that being bad is good because it allows you to just start. So don't hyperfixate, let it go. Let those mistakes go. It is infinitely better for you to release content with a mistake than for you to never let anybody see it for the light of day, and you won't be able to then grow from it. I have had way too many moments when I am done with the piece, think it's so good, and then as soon as I upload it to any place that somebody else can look at, I realize all of the flaws and horrible things that I should have seen when I saved the document. But that doesn't mean I'm going to sneak back in, make those changes, and then re-release it. Nope, that now lives online, and I need to try to do better next time. It is so much easier for me to just go ahead and start a new piece than dwell on the failures of my last drawing. I want to get better, so I need to move on. I do not need to stick around and go back into the file and try to find a way to fix it. Just start somewhere new. The last piece of advice I have around this is experiment. Try to grow. Try to see new things. Try to be the better version of yourself on the next piece. If you just try reinventing the wheel, let me tell you, that wheel will not change very much because it's already so good. So why don't you just go ahead and find a new shape, interest, point of view that you can now grow into? Because it's infinitely easier for you to work on a new than just keep beating in the same thing. I know it's really hard because you want to get that thing right, but sometimes going to a new subject and seeing it from a new angle helps you get that thing that you were drilling in right all along. I know a lot of this advice is stuff that you can kind of go in one ear and out the other. And I have definitely fell victim to quite a few of these things. But I definitely am able to work through them when I know what I'm doing, reconcile my situation, and move on. So I definitely suggest that next time you are feeling a level of perfectionism creep into your soul and you're not able to release it, definitely go through these items and think about which one is applicable to you in this moment and see how you can reverse Uno your way out of it. Because at the end of the day, you are not going to be able to get over this perfectionism unless you work on it and you reconcile where you sit on this list. I hope this helps. I hope it's exactly what you needed to hear. And I hope you are hearing exactly what you need to at this time. And I hope you have your own way of sneaking out of perfectionism so you don't get in your head. If you do, and I didn't mention it, by golly, put it in the comments because all of us are definitely willing to hear how we can get out of our heads and get more art drawn. Thanks. Bye.